Adam's Law, July 7, 2016. I read an article today on Comic Book Resources saying that The Killing Joke is going to be the widest release in Fathom Events history, which is really not surprising to me, given that it's Batman and all the excitement that people have right now for this movie. It's been, the news of this has been spreading like wildfire. I'm seeing articles about it all the time. I think it's probably going to be DC direct-to-video's most lucrative release, just because it is The Killing Joke, and that's such a beloved graphic novel. It's a thing that a lot of people thought that we'd probably never see adapted. It's kind of a big novelty for people because it's the first of these that's been rated R. I think that the first couple direct-to-video movies partly did well just because, they're PG-13 and they're for adults before they're for kids, and so finally we're getting more serious superhero stuff. And this was before The Dark Knight, so we were the first of them in 2007, Superman Doomsday, was before this onslaught of more adult, more serious, more considered sophisticated superhero movies. And now, now we've already had a rated R movie with Batman in it, with the director's cut, the ultimate cut of Batman vs. Superman, but I think getting an animated cartoon like this of a thing that is so beloved and that you really would need to make it rated R to do it right. Not to say anything about the piece because I haven't seen it yet, but I think that's just really exciting to people. I think some people are really excited, of course, about Mark Hamill finally getting to voice this because he's talked for so long about how much he loves The Killing Joke and how he'd like to voice it and all of that. So this has been getting a lot of press, and more press than I've ever seen for one of these direct-to-video things. And so it going to theater with a limited release with Fathom made a lot of sense to me. The fact that it's now in 1,000 screens really doesn't surprise me. They've added 300 theaters to whatever they had in the first place now, and I could see them even adding more between now and then. They've still got a couple weeks. So this is, of course, not big news, not especially surprising news, but I wanted to use this as a platform to talk a little bit about superhero movies, superhero animated movies in the theater in the first place, and how viable this might be, especially for Batman, but for other characters as well. I think this is gonna sell out. I think there will be people that won't get to go that would like to go. It's gonna be Monday the 25th, and it's gonna have 2 showings at each theater that it's showing at. This is not really an instant gratification thing. People aren't gonna be going to this because it's out weeks before the DVD release and the Blu-ray release, and they just have to see it right away, because the very next day it's released on digital, and then shortly after that, DVD and Blu-ray. So the digital download on the 26th, Blu-ray and DVD on August 2nd. So like a week later, so people will be able to see it at home. So you don't have to go see this in the theater if you don't want to see it pretty much right then, the day after that. And so if it's selling out, it's because, if they've had to add extra screens, and if it sells out, it's because people want to see this kind of stuff on the big screen. I'm a little bit surprised that there wasn't a release like this for Dark Knight Returns, and I guess it was because that was, I imagine if there was ever any talk about maybe doing that, it was because it was in 2 parts. But when the second part dropped, I could have seen the whole kit and caboodle being shown at theaters for a Fathom Events thing, and I don't think that happened. I really like Fathom Events. I think it's really cool that this company has continued to stick around and prosper. I went to some of the earlier things that they did when that thing first got started, and I've continued to see things with them here and there. I've gone to some of the Riff Tracks live. I've seen several Star Trek things, and they don't do those anymore. Hopefully at some point maybe they'll bring that back, but I don't think the last couple did well enough to to make it, to warrant it. But I saw the Menagerie when they were doing the original series remasters, and I saw a couple of Next Generation episodes that way, Measure of a Man and Best of Both Worlds, which was both parts with no cut in between, which was surreal and awesome all at the same time. So I will definitely be going to this, and I'll probably, without spoiling anything, talk a little bit about it on Comic Book Late Night that night, because it's Monday, so I'll go to that and then turn around and do Comic Book Late Night. But I think this is likely to set a precedent, that we're likely to see more of this kind of stuff after this, and I hope it doesn't get too saturated. I hope we don't get to the point where every time there's a direct-to-video animated release for a Batman thing, it goes to Fathom Events, or maybe even eventually we get wide releases for these things, because I think this will do well enough that Warner's will start thinking, well, maybe some of these, depending on what they are, we should wide release, and maybe we'd make a little bit more money with them, or at least do a Fathom thing. But like this one, I think given that they've added so many screens, and that it's gonna be the biggest release for them ever, I think they could have gotten away with wide release, maybe like a one weekend only thing. Maybe not keep it in the theater for several weeks, but just give it a wide release and show it one night or two nights. And I think you might see more of this kind of thing after that. It would be smart with, again, the direct-to-video movies that warrant it. I hesitate, because I could totally see Warner's, like, jumping on this and trying to do it with everything, and then that would make it stale, and a lot of those movies really aren't great, so you'd only want to do it with the ones that there's a lot of interest in, at the very least. But like classic stories and stuff like that. If this does well, I could kind of see that as a good marketing strategy, because the direct-to-video movies don't sell real well, and so it would be, at least with Fathom, a one-night-only thing, it would be a way to get some of those costs recouped really quickly. And I don't know how expensive it is for them to set up a thing like this, but I think it would be smart of them to occasionally do that with at least particular projects. It would be good to get this stuff in the face of the general public more, because it's a good alternative in case people don't like the live-action Batman that we have right now, and of course, just because that doesn't come out all the time, and people love Batman. People are nuts for Batman. So you could put out one or two Batman things in the theater every year, and I don't think that it would get stale to the point where people would go, another Batman thing, I don't care. I don't think, as long as most of them were pretty good. We're going to get Lego Batman next year. I think that's going to do gangbusters, partly because it's a Batman thing, but partly because it's a spin-off of the Lego movie, and that was really well received, and obviously did really well at the box office, but really critically well received. It looks like it's going to be just Easter egg central, which fans eat up constantly. So I think that movie is going to appeal to a wide audience, and this plus that, I think, will equal more attempts at animated Batman on the big screen, and maybe next time, whatever it is, some kind of a wide release outside of Fathom. I could really see that. And I could especially see it if in 2018, if they haven't done more of this yet, when Sony's animated Spider-Man movie is released. If that does really well, I really see Warner's coming in and going, okay, we need to have animated Batman movies. And again, if they're really good, I think that would be great. I'd love to see, and Rasco and I just did a GNN on this a couple weeks ago, I would love to see more serious animation on the big screen, superhero or otherwise, and there are all kinds of cool stories you could adapt. Doing one-and-done things doesn't have to be a constant continuity. Kind of hope that it's not. I kind of hope that we don't, if this proves really viable, that we don't see DC and Warner Brothers going, okay, let's make a big Batman animated continuity. Just adapt some stories and make them kind of one-and-done things, and maybe occasionally do a sequel to something. I could see that, but it would be really cool if this became more viable, and then we could have somewhat longer animated movies, because they don't have to stick to that 75-80 minute format, because it's going to the theater and they know that they'll probably be able to recoup those costs, and there's all kinds of stories that would be neat to adapt. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the reception is to this, and if it and if it affects anything, or if it's kind of just a one and done deal. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say on the subject. Thanks a lot for watching. Sure appreciate it. Leave your comments. Let me know what you think would be the best thing, the best Batman comic story to adapt for the big screen for an animated movie. I'd love to see maybe a Batman Beyond reunion movie. I think that'd be really cool. You set in that same continuity, but something that kind of anybody could watch. It's not really an adaptation, but I just thought of that. Like, people have wanted Batman Beyond for years, and it'd be really cool to do maybe even like a 2D 3D animation mashup thing where it's in 2D animation, but there's a lot of computer enhancement to it because that goes well with that material. And this is a little out of left field, and I don't know if it would be a real great idea for a theatrical thing, but I'd love to see another Batman vignette film, because I thought the Dark Knight vignette film tie-in thing was a good idea, but ultimately wasn't real well executed overall. And I think it'd be cool to do Elseworld stories. So maybe not make it just Batman, make it several DC things, or make it Batman things based on Elseworld stories that also include other DC characters. Do like Speeding Bullets, which is the story where Superman is Batman, where Clark Kent ends up in Gotham City in the first place and becomes Batman, but has all of Superman's powers, and Gotham by Gaslight, but honestly, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, Gotham by Gaslight would be a great one all by itself. That's gonna be my answer. Gotham by Gaslight. Leave your comments. Let me know what you'd like to see, and if you think this might be the start of animated Batman movies in the theater, or if you think this might just be a one and done kind of deal. Thanks again for watching. I'm Captain Logan, and this concludes today's Captain's Log.